So about a week ago, I got a call from a friend named Richie Richardson that has been playing my music for years on his radio shows. And I got a voicemail from him, and he said, Brenda Lynn, there is a guy from New Jersey that did a review on your song, and I didn't know what he was talking about, but he sent me a link, and I clicked on it, and it was amazing. I saw this gentleman doing a review on a song that I wrote and recorded about a year or 2 years ago, called "My Love for You Is Still Here." And this gentleman from New Jersey has this great YouTube channel, and he's doing this really nice review, very kind words, very sweet words. And I immediately had to get a hold of him. There was just so much behind that as far as the timing of the song, the timing of when this gentleman did the review. And I've got Don Snedeker of RockN2Country on the line with me now. How you doing?
Good, Brenda Lynn. How are you?
I'm good, good. I don't think I gave that story enough backstory, but we'll get into that a little bit here. First of all, I hope you're having a great day, and I hope you're staying warm up there in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's been a mild winter, so we're all good. You get used to it up here anyhow, so I don't know. I don't complain about weather.
Yeah.
There's no point.
No, it's always changing. That's right. And that's a good thing. Oh, it's bright and sunny here in Columbia, Tennessee today. And so I'm appreciating that a whole lot. But I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today because you've got a great YouTube channel. And I'm so glad we connected. We've known each other an entire week and a few days now.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, go, I don't want to interrupt. You lead the way. I'm usually doing all the talking on my channel. I'm just gonna I'll follow your lead. You go ahead.
Well, I want to hear from you. Sometimes I can overtalk a little bit. I like to visit with people too. But tell me about, well, first of all, let's give a little history on your channel and what you do. Rock into Country.
Yeah, it was just sort of almost a double entendre because I started out as a rock guy for the first, X number of decades of my life. And then I started getting into a little bit of country. And the first song that really like moved me was a song by Billy Dean called You Don't Count the Cost. And I'm not even why this radio station up here in New York, which is a rock station out of New York, they've changed their format since, but it was the biggest one up here. And it's like a Sunday, and I'm driving, and I just happen to flip stations, and I hear this absolutely gorgeous ballad. And I'm like, who is this? What is that? And he said, it's Billy Dean's You Don't Count the Cost. And so I went out and bought the CD because that's how you bought them, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, let me pick up this girl's CD here. It was Sherry Austin, an Australian artist.
Yes.
Right? And then I bought Merle's greatest hits and Alan Jackson's greatest hits.
Huh.
And I was like, God, this speaks to my soul in a whole different way. But at that point, I didn't really want to. I have like an addictive thing. Like I'll totally go all the way down the rabbit trail into something. So be careful what I give myself to.
Right.
But then I got into Nashville country a little bit later. And when I started my channel, I was into Nashville country. And then people saw how I love lyrics and that kind of thing. And they started suggesting, like Johnny Horton, an artist that I'd never heard of growing up because I was into Zeppelin and Skinner.
Mm-hmm.
But once I heard the way the stories were being told and how the instrumentation supported the lyricism and the way it merged together, I was a goner, absolute, just total goner once I started getting deeper into traditional country. And so that's sort of the long and the short of it. I went from being a rock guy into country. That's the impetus of the name.
Rock into Country. I love that. I love that. You can tell you really enjoy what you do. You have several videos on your channel. You've built your channel up. You've got over 26,000 followers on your YouTube channel, and you can just feel that passion. You have an entire video devoted to your story, which we heard a little bit of just now, a video that I found so captivating because you could just feel your passion for this kind of music and how you got into it and how it kind of surprised you that you got into traditional country music.
It did, but I mean, we all sort of I think we follow a similar trajectory in life in what like the human psyche is kind of similar among us in many ways, where as you get older, you've heard every song that you've loved from a child. You've heard it 10,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
And you want something new. And when something feeds your soul the way traditional does, there's really no turning back. I mean, like, I try getting into other songs, but I'm like, I just find myself dialing back to the traditional country. That's what I want to hear. And yeah, so that's just real and genuine. I'm just so happily surprised
Yeah, yeah.
that, it found me and I found it.
Yeah, and you've just seemed to have thrived with it, and I'm sure you've met so many artists while doing this channel. How long have you had the channel up?
About 5 years. Yeah, I
Okay,
think we're going on 5 years next month.
very good. Now, how did you find me and my song?
We spoke about this. I'm still wondering that because when you click on the YouTube, it makes its recommendations based on your interests and its algorithms, and that isn't how this happened at all. And I just started following some kind of trail on YouTube, and somehow I wound up on this pretty blonde girl in the studio's image that happened to be you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm like, yeah, of course. And sometimes it doesn't take much, but I'm like, let me see what this is. And so I click on it and I hear maybe 5 seconds of the song, and I'm like, well, that's definitely got the traditional feel to it. I'm going to take a flyer on the channel because I like to mix the Merles, the Hank Juniors and Seniors, the Patsy Clines, like the really well-known artists, with indies,
Hmm.
independent artists.
Right.
And so I'm like, let's just see how this goes. And I was blown away by you, your presentation, your voice, your just how your soul was into the lyrics. And you could tell when somebody really believes what they're singing or is feeling it. Jen, you can almost always tell.
Yeah. Thank
And you
you.
can almost, yeah, and you could almost always tell too when the person singing it is the person who also wrote it, because there's just an investment of heart and soul and mind, like the whole person is into it. And you were that. And I just, the way you expressed yourself in the song, I'm like, my God, one, there's so much talent out there that isn't heard. Uh, but I was just so taken aback, and I'm like, oh my God. And I do these true reactions, so I don't know what to expect.
Hmm.
And I didn't know what to expect, but then you get in touch with me later that night and shared with me the story of the song, and I'm like, oh God, I was on the right track. This song meant so much to you.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Oh.
um,
Well,
yeah, and
thank you. And I did tell you the story off air when we spoke. And for those of you tuning in, that song was written a couple years ago at the request of my uncle. He asked me if I would write a song for after he went to heaven one day. He said, "Please write a song later for." He wanted to write it for my Aunt Sharon. Because he wanted her to feel his appreciation. I know you commented on the one line, even when I didn't show it, that's kind of where that came from. But so I wrote that song, and I feel like he wrote that song. I just listened. Basically, I got real still one day after he passed away a couple days later, and that song just came to me at the right time. But he passed on April 13th a couple years ago. 2 years later, my mother went to heaven on April 13th. So the song took on an entire new meaning. And the day that you brought that song back around to me, a year after I recorded it, I'm driving down the road a little over a week ago, and I click on the YouTube video to listen to this review that Richie brought to my attention. And I had to pull over at the local Waffle House and cry my eyes out. But it was happy tears because it was like my mom was so in that, the spirit, it was in so much love. So your timing on that meant a whole lot to me. So, I mean, like you say, you're not sure how that rabbit trail went, but I think there are things we cannot see and understand, but we can feel them, just kind of like what the song says. But so that's a little backstory there.
yeah, and I know that you share that with me too, and it's humbling. It just is whenever you're part of someone else's story, without knowing, like unknowingly part of someone else's story, it's truly humbling.
Yeah.
And it was that. And then this is something you wouldn't have known, but one thing leads to another in different contexts. And I just this afternoon, I'd read a comment in after I posted it, then you posted my reaction on your channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, you know what? Let me see if I know anybody who has commented in there, because you start getting a gazillion comments, and that's how I realized how much you're loved and how much people appreciate you and what you do and who you are. And I just see these gorgeous comments in there. It's this huge love fest.
Oh, they're
And
wonderful. They're the best. Yeah.
well, one comment in particular stood out, and it was Alan Mark Russell's comments.
Mm-hmm.
And he just said something like, "Oh, like beautiful song or great review or something. You deserve it." Speaking of you, of course. And then he said, "And I'm on my way." I think he said to Nashville to write with somebody who I can't tell you about right now, but very well known artist. And I said, "Well, it sounds like he's an artist. Let me go check his stuff out."
Mm-hmm.
So I just reacted to Alan Mark Russell's song "Somewhere Someday." Today, I did the reaction this morning, and I'll post it probably in a week. So,
Aw.
but this is your baby now.
I love that. That is so neat. He's from Alabama, and I met him when I was on local FM radio. He was kind of coming through, and he did a music video here in Columbia, and he walked in the station, and we did a brief interview, and that's how I met him. So isn't it amazing, these connections?
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. Like you just, build a community this way too of just happy moments, I suppose.
You are such an uplifter and a supporter, encourager of other people. I mean, even on your channel, you encouraged. I saw a recent video where you really believe in another reactor, somebody who's reviewing different kinds of music, and you gave her a beautiful review in itself. So can you speak on that a little bit?
Oh, sure. I mean, we don't all have to be competitive with one another. I
Right.
mean, and she's younger. She's just got it. And when you see that, I just smile, because everybody has challenges in this world and in this life. But every so often, somebody finds themselves in a space that works really well for them. And Brit Reacts is the name of her channel. But I've done, I don't know, I've probably done 3 or 4 of those where there's some other, like with No Life Shack. I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's
Mm-mm.
king of the hill. He does everything. He's just got a personality that you're like, how is somebody this cool, this nice, this lovable, this you want to hang out with the guy? And I think he had like 300,000 subscribers when I first saw him, and he's like over 4 million now. And there are others who are much smaller, and I don't know. I just like doing that. I don't know what else to say. It's just kind of fun.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
how you got into it. It was kind of fun, right? Did you expect for it to catch on the way it has?
You hope for it. It's like anybody. When you write a song, you hope it catches on, but you can dream that it's going to sell millions and become popular, but you just don't know till you do it. And I actually started the channel because I was taking care of my mother down in Florida because she gotten sick and I didn't want her passing away in a nursing home. So I went down and took care of her. But there was a lot of downtime.
Mm-hmm.
And, I took care of her in her home. And there seriously was a lot of downtime. And so I like to write and do all these other things. But I go on YouTube and I see these 2 younger guys doing a reaction to a Black Sabbath song called War Pigs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a song that I'd grown up with. It was heavy metal. And I'm like, these young kids are listening to that. And so I wanted to see, what is this about? And that was my introduction to reaction videos. And then I started watching more and more, and I realized there were a lot of reactors out there. I'm like, well, I'm bored. Why don't I start a reaction channel? And I said, well, I'll do it. And I started with Nashville country. And, and then eventually when people saw how much I loved the lyricism, like Miranda Lambert is still arguably my favorite artist
Yeah, she's
because
great.
I just, almost every song of hers transports me somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And like Love Your Memory, the little vibrato she's got in her voice in that song, along with the lyrics, just takes me somewhere else. But and Alan Jackson, of course, and artists like that, like Easton Corbin, even like lesser known but really good guys, Billy Currington. And anyway, I was doing them, but the people on the channel saw how much I really liked the lyrics and the meaning and the heart. And so they started suggesting, Hank Sr., and even going way back to Johnny Horton. But sometimes they'd see how I found things to be funny, and they'd be like, Don, you've got to do Amos Moses by Jerry Reed. And so this was my baptism into like the country music, but it started with like Nashville country, and then now it's, I'll do them every so often, but it really is more traditional or off the beaten track, and even bluegrass, and Chris Ledoux with his Western, and Colter Wall, who's the newer artist. You've probably heard of him.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it out there still. Some people will still say, well, there's no traditional country music, but there's so much of it. I mean, I'm scrolling through your channel right now. It's pretty versatile in the traditional country. Like you said, I'm seeing Johnny Rodriguez here, David Allen Coe, Hank Williams Sr., and then a lot of newer artists like Colter Wall and Emmylou Harris, who she's been across the board and on genres, but it really falls under that umbrella of traditional country music. And you seem to equally throw in some Texas swing with your bluegrass, and I like that. I do.
I do. Folks request it, and then like I ask questions, and I don't purposely try to play the fool, but I don't mind playing the ignorant one, because if I don't know something, I don't know it. And so I ask questions to the people on the channel, like, how would you categorize this song? Would you call this red there? Because sometimes there's like a grunge element to some of the artists who are, say out of Oklahoma or Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and they're on the Texas scene versus say the Nashville scene. And so they'll tell me, well, yeah, you would do a two-step to this, but it's this kind of country. And I'm like, all right, duly noted. I'll try to, continue my learning excursion here. And so if there's another song that comes up later that's like that, I'll know what to call it. But it takes longer when you didn't grow up with it. You don't even realize, like, when you grow up with a given thing, whether it's music or anything, how much you just absorb subconsciously just by exposure. And when you learn when you're older, it's almost a more formal process.
Mm-hmm.
And it can even be frustrating at first, because I really like to learn quickly, and it's just some things take longer. And but now it's like I realize I do have a fairly good library of knowledge, but the folks on the channel, I mean, I've made so many friends, like down in Texas, so many good folks in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, and they know their stuff. You could just tell, like anytime they comment, just the nuances, and their grandparents listened to this song. And I remember this was I love these stories. Like somebody will comment like, oh my gosh, I remember when I was 7 years old and my father would play this on in the living room and we would dance. And you hear these vignettes of people's lives and you're like, oh my God, is that beautiful?
I love that. Isn't it amazing to connect with people like that from all over, just doing what you enjoy doing? It's just great.
Yeah, it's unexpected, like, I mean, going back to your question, like, did you expect it? No, and that's part of the fun. Like, you sort of expect something good. That's why you do anything. It's a measure of hope that something good is going to come from something you do
Mm-hmm.
for yourself and for others, of course, equally, but you don't know how it's going to manifest.
Right.
And then when it shows up, it's like having a kid, that you're like, my God, you're going to have a kid and they turn out a certain way. You couldn't imagine they would turn out that way. And you're like, how are you so good at that or whatever? And
Mm.
it's kind of like that where you just hope it turns out well, and then it does, but not in a way that you expected.
Oh, that's well put. I like that. Hey, I'm scrolling through your channel. I see Roger Miller because I was just going to ask you, have you done any Roger Miller? Did you go down that rabbit trail of songs?
No, most of them are by request.
Oh, okay.
Like, I've got to say probably 98% of what I do is by request.
Okay.
And yeah, and so I know, like, every so often if there's an artist I haven't heard of, and people do, they suggest a lot of artists that I haven't heard of, I've got to click on the song for 3 or 5 seconds. I learned the hard way because people would request songs, and then I would, hit the camera and I would start recording and reacting to it. And it wouldn't be country at all. let alone bad country, for example. It would become, and I'm like, what are these people thinking? And so I learned that I've got to listen to, just a few seconds of a song, because I really don't want to be spoiled. I want like virginal ears going into it. I don't want to know anything about the song before I go into it. I really want to react and be challenged by the story being told.
Yeah.
And so with like Roger Miller, like King of the Road or what have you, of course everybody's heard that song, but we don't necessarily listen to songs real carefully.
Hmm.
That's not even necessarily the purpose of music. You're driving on the road or you're doing work in the house or whatever. But as an artist, when you put headphones on and you're listening to how a song is put together and what it means and how the ingredients come together,
Hmm.
it's there's so much to appreciate in there.
Yes.
And yeah, and like King of the Road was one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got so many great songs. I mean, you so many great songs. And yeah, King of the Road, you can hear it over and over again, but until you really listen to it, you're like, "Hey, that's genius," you know?
Yeah, or like Roy Rogers, Tumbling Tumbleweeds.
Mhm.
You don't, that is a much deeper song that meets the ear when you first hear it. And this is why I'm even smiling here. I'm in my place by myself, and I'm smiling so big right now at just the pleasant surprise that that song was when I had the headphones on and I took the time to listen to it, because as a reactor, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have any comments to make about a song, which is kind of like your self-imposed job, then you got to listen, and you hear things that you never would have heard before. And you realize there's a reason why that song is still like in the public psyche today and it's on commercials, because it was really, really good.
Yeah.
And it was simple, but as I say on the channel about a lot of songs, simplicity is extremely difficult.
I like the way you put that. Simplicity is extremely difficult. I like that. Go ahead and elaborate on that.
Yeah, it's easy to add ingredients to a cake, but can you, or if you're writing an article, to say things in fewer words, but have it uh, say the same thing or have it with the same punch. And, refraining, that was one thing I noticed, for example, if you don't mind me using you as an example, when I listened to how you presented your artistry in the song that brought you and me together, was you were very patient. There were pauses that just showed an artistry and a professionalism, and it's restraint that shows professionalism. It isn't aggression. And that's what I see in, a lot of these songs, where the restraint, the simplicity, like it really takes nerve to go slowly in a song. Or, dancers know this, ballerinas, modern dancers, whomever, moving slowly on stage is far more difficult than moving quickly, because any mistake you make is seen. But when you're moving quickly, you can make a mistake and cover up for it very quickly. Or in a song, if you have so many notes in a song that are coming at you, it's easy to sort of cover certain things up that make, a guitar lick that may be just off pitch, but you don't hear it. But
Hmm.
when you're simple, it takes a lot more nerve to go simple in a song.
That's I love the way you put that. And I was just the other day I was listening to Wayne Dyer. I don't know if you're familiar or not, but he said, and I think
Yes.
think this is his quote, but it's something like, "It is the space between the notes that makes the music. Without that emptiness, the silence in between, there is no music, only a noise." And that's interesting because I liken that to life, and I think that's what he was doing as well when he presented that.
Oh, I like that. I like that you broaden that to the life part of it. Well, because when we spoke last week, we got into like neuroscience and
Right.
you and stuff that I absolutely love. It's like a nerd fest, but like how the brain works and memory. But you
Yes.
had your take on it. But yeah, I mean, to broaden that out, like, can we power down a little bit in life? And and all that. But maybe that's partly why traditional is such an amazing craft and art form and just gift,
Yeah. Yeah. And
because
you're
it
you're
it it gives you the opportunity to be drawn into it versus blasting you back.
mhm.
And you could, enter at your own risk, so to speak. But, you find it's a pretty safe space to hear these songs, although some of them absolutely rip your heart out.
Yes, yes, I can't hear too many of those back to back sometimes.
No, but some of them, like Chris Stapleton's, there's one song where I pretty much couldn't comment because I was just like so choked up because I didn't realize, well, it was Chris Stapleton's Broken Halos.
Oh, yeah,
And I
yeah.
didn't realize that that song, I'd heard it before too,
Mhm.
but I just decided that, I love that song. I wanted to react to it or review it. And I didn't realize it was going to make me think of somebody who I loved dearly, and still to this day, she's one of the very few people that I'm just still like crushed that she's not with us any longer. And it made me think of her through the song.
Mhm.
And then in the end, normally I like to have a comments. Obviously, that's the purpose of it. But I just remember just saying, I just I just have nothing. I gotta go. And I
Mm.
took the headphones off, and that was it. And but you don't know when those moments are coming. You
Right.
know, you
That,
Yeah.
that is one of those songs for me too. I really listened to it one day when I was, again, when I was on FM radio playing music 3 hours a day, and that would get requested every now and then, and I thought, "Man, this is tough," a song like this, but it's beautiful.
It is, and I like that. I mean, if you can feel, I like feeling it, whether songs just choke me up or make me think of horrendous moments of my life or make me laugh, all of it. I like the full range of human emotions. And it's in the songs. Traditional has that. I mean, I've experienced just about every genre of music, and there seriously is nothing, in my opinion, obviously, because I'm giving it, but nothing that comes close to traditional.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And people request songs by artists, of course, that we've all heard of, but I haven't heard all of their songs. So I don't know what I'm getting myself into. And of course, you read the title and you're like, all right, this could go in any number of directions. And sometimes it's like a Roy Clark song that you're laughing your head off. And other ones you're crying. And some songs tip their hand right away, like "Thank God" and "Greyhound, She's Gone." You're like, all right, this is going to be one of those songs. Like even going in, you're going to be, oh my God. Um, but a song like Amos Moses that I mentioned earlier, I didn't know it was going to be that hilarious.
Yeah.
You just don't know. You hear, a name like Moses, you think, oh, maybe he's going to go Ten Commandments type stuff on us, and it's not. The guy, his son was catching crocodile or alligators, and it went wrong. But somehow he made that funny. But
Aw. Hey, have you gotten into songwriting yourself, Don?
I have, but it's just, I mean, I've written a couple of hundred songs, just the lyrics to songs, because I'm not a musician.
Uh-huh.
So, if I were to do anything with songwriting, it would be on the lyrical end of it,
Uh-huh.
just that. But yeah, I mean, I like words. Some people think in melodies, and I think in words.
Yeah. I hope I didn't put you on the spot too bad with that question there. But it just, as much as knowledgeable as you are and as great with words as you are, I thought you might be a songwriter yourself.
Well, thanks for the compliment. Now, I don't mind being put on the spot. I mean, if you met my two sisters, you'd understand it is what we do. So yeah, I'm fine with that.
Oh.
No, yeah, I don't know. I have a friend of mine. This is when I realized I was a nerd, like serious. Like I'm a sports guy too, so that's how I conceptualize myself. Is this, when I played sports, I was aggressive.
Hmm.
But I was listening to a seminar, an 18-hour seminar on how to construct better sentences, and I'm listening to it, and I couldn't believe it, and what I was hearing. So I called up a friend of mine who I knew would appreciate what I had to say, and he has his master's degree in 4 languages. Now, he's a nerd. And seriously, so I'm like, well, he'll totally appreciate this. And I'm telling him, I'm like, Bob, I had no idea you could do this with commas and modifying clauses, that if you take the subordinating clause and yada, yada, yada. And he just, after about a minute of me, like, seriously, like, getting off on this, he's like, Donald, you are such a nerd. And I'm like, this is not true. I'm not a nerd. I'm a sports guy. But I realized what I had just gotten excited about,
Uh-huh.
and I realized I had no defense. I'm like, oh my God, it's true. And so that partly explains my love of words. But I suppose if I could play an instrument the way you could, or sing like you could, maybe it would be different. But I love the lyrical end of it.
Oh, that's awesome. I'd love to hear your lyrics sometime, Don.
Well, I'm sure we'll have more conversations, and maybe I'll pretty some up and send them to you.
Oh, that would be great. Hey, you put out quite a few videos a week. How often do you do them?
I do at least one a day. I haven't missed a day since I started the channel, and and I have been doing one a day, every day, and then recently more people have been asking for. Well, the list is long,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll do two or three a day, and sometimes people will make like a donation to the channel because they want me to dedicate a song to somebody on their birthday or anniversary. And just, I don't know, in the last month and a half, more folks have been requesting it that way. And so now, that I may have like two or three up in a day, but I always make sure I have at least one up every single day. Even like if I go away for a week or so, I'll get all the work up ahead of time and schedule it so that there's a song per day.
Okay, I see that now. I'm looking at okay, because I've been listening, quite a bit since I've been introduced to this channel, and I didn't know if some of them were older or not, and I've just kind of let it play, let YouTube go to the next one, But I see that now. You've got several since you did mine just a week ago. This is awesome. Bill Anderson on here, Travis Tritt, Ricky Van Shelton. This is great.
Yeah, it is fun, but I'll tell you, the ones like, even though we have the well-known artists out there like the Travises and Johnny Cash's and such, the artists that I've gotten in touch with, and that like you, um, are the independent artists, like Mickey Lamantia out of he's up in Rhode Island,
Mm-hmm.
and he works with the Cannons and such. But I'll do a reaction and then he'll post it on his channel like you did. And then it also helps my channel grow in that way. That's not why I do it, but that is what happens.
Right.
But it's the smaller artists.
Yeah.
The Miranda doesn't know I exist.
She
I'm pretty
will.
sure that.
She will
For
after she hears
instance,
this.
and but among others, but there are others, where in the independent world, where they're just happy that somebody is paying attention to them, and it's usually somebody requests an independent artist. Could be out of Oklahoma, could be out of Eastern Kentucky, like Sarah Beth Terry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll hear these folks. I'm like, God, they are so good, and they'd be a lot of fun to sit down and just have a beer with. Um, but yeah, like Ashley McBride, before she blew up, I saw her at a small place here in New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
and down at the Stone Pony where Springsteen got his start. And they have a small indoor stage, and she is so likable as a person, as a performer. Like, what you see is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't big when I went to see her, but then, like, I don't know, 6 months later, she was up for Album of the Year, or New Artist of the Year or something like that, and then she blew up. But
Yeah.
when they're the smaller folks, I connect with them because the bigger ones really don't know me. So
Well,
that's life.
no, you got a great channel, and it's very, like I said, very versatile. I want to encourage people to follow not just your channel, but also your social media. So if you want to speak on that, I know you're on Facebook, and of course, your YouTube channel is what I have in front of me. I do want you all to follow, like, share, rock, the letter N, the number 2, country, RockN2Country. But I'll let you speak on other social media platforms.
Yeah, you covered it. I mean, I keep it pretty simple. When I go over to Facebook, I post all my reactions on Facebook. and that's also RockN2Country. And I tag the artist. That's how they find out about me, because YouTube's tagging system is can be a bit spotty,
Hmm.
and at least in my experience. So those are the two that I've got. I might even have a Twitter channel, but I never use it
I'm the same way.
for it. Yeah. So those are the two. You covered it.
Well, very good, very good. And yeah, you guys are going to be introduced to so many more artists in traditional country music. And if anything else, tune in just to see Don on camera and talk. He is so compassionate. He has so much fun. Hey, you're also a life coach. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 It's and that's partly why I love the traditional stuff. And thank you for bringing that up. But that is a big part when I look at the um the lyrics in traditional music and the stories that are told of real life events and how they're depicted. I look at it through the lens of like a personal coach, for example. And yeah, that's why it hits so deep. But I like to also, my commentary, some people leave comments in the channel and they'll talk about how hard their lives are. Some are more open than others, but that they've been going through this rough patch, or I just lost my husband a month ago, or my wife a year ago, or whatever. And so I talk about things related to broader life issues that a song will get me going on. And neither I nor my viewers know where I'm going with it when I get into it, but I try to keep it relevant and not go on for too long. But yeah, that kind of stems from my life coaching or personal coaching, as well as my philosophy background. As a philosophy and criminal justice major at Rutgers, and I like big picture, outside the box thinking. So that plays into how I approach the lyrics and messages, so to speak, in songs.
It comes across. I love that. I love that. I could talk to you all day long because you just brought up philosophy and criminal. We could talk another whole hour, about these other
Call me
things.
back sometime.
I
I'm
know
here.
it. Hey, honestly, I would love, to have you back on again sometime and touch base and keep spreading the word about Rock Into Country, because you do. You got a jewel there on YouTube. And I encourage all of you out there hearing this to go check it out right now and check out those artists. Give them a like, follow, and share these videos on social media as well. Don, is there anything you want to say to all of your listeners tuning in today?
No, just thank you to you, Brenda Lynn. It's a pleasure, and I mean, you have it in so many ways. And like I told you, you can make it up here in New York and New Jersey,
Uh-huh.
and wherever you live, wherever you work. I'm honored, I'm humbled. I just still remember, I have in my mind's eye what I saw in you in your video and what I heard, and was absolutely astounded. But you know, for me, this is just fun. It's seriously fun. But if it helps people along the way and what I talk about, then that makes me very happy. It just does. It's just, life's hard, and this hopefully makes it a bit better.
Oh, you definitely make things better. Don Snedeker of New Jersey, Rock Into Country. Thank you so much, my new New Jersey friend.
You're welcome. If you make your way up here, you're welcome. You're welcome to stay here. I know your husband, you're going to travel. You're welcome here. So,
Well, thank you. I would love to go back to that area. I've only been to New Jersey and New York one time in my life, and I've never forgotten it. I did get to play a little club up there. If I ever, you might have been Pennsylvania on the border there, the Lighthouse Lounge, I think. It just came to me what the name of that place was, but I loved going up there with my friends, musician friends, and I've always said I wanted to go back again and visit. I still love my Tennessee, but I would love to go visit and do some music up there someday.
well, we'd love to have you. Absolutely. So, and you do just fine up here. There's so many country music fans up here. There's just another secret that people don't know, that there are so many country music fans up here. It's unbelievable.
Oh, hey, well, real quick before I let you go, I have to speak on that because when I went up there, and all right, so we're at this club called the Lighthouse Lounge, if I remember right. I think it's right. And this metal band got off the stage. We were going on next, okay? And I was started to freak out. I'm like, okay, they just heard like some really heavy metal. Am I really going to get up there and sing, this kind of music now? Because the energy was high in there. We got up there and sang Rocky Top of all things, okay? The place went crazy.
Yep.
They loved it. So that was
Of
that was
course.
fun. It
Of
was so
course.
fun.
Everybody knows it. Everybody loves it. It's like it's like, Take Me Home Country Roads or Sweet Caroline. I mean, it doesn't matter how tough you are. You love those songs.
It was neat. It was neat. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Again, I could talk to you all day. I always run over because I don't know time, in my life. But thank you so much, Don, for visiting with
You're
me
welcome,
today,
Brenda Lynn. Thanks for
sharing your
thinking
story.
about me.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.